Welcome to Bridging the Gap, the Madison County Chamber of Commerce podcast, where Madison County's stories and businesses connect. I'm Sarah Pugh, the Executive Director of the Madison County Chamber of Commerce. Each episode spotlights the people, businesses, and nonprofits that make our community thrive while sharing the stories behind what they do. We're looking forward to learning more about their story and their connection to Madison County. Today I'm here with Melody Reels, the Director of the Iowa Quilt Museum. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Melody, for those who may not have visited the museum yet, can you tell us about the Iowa Quilt Museum and what you offer?
So we are in an old building on the square, an old JCPenney's building, and it still says JCPenney on the ground when you walk in. So we're kind of restricted in our space. So we don't save and preserve like it might sound like when you think of a typical museum. So we have 3 to 4 exhibits a year. Anywhere from antique traditional quilting to art, contemporary, modern art that you would have on your walls. And so we offer different exhibits to visit 3 times a year, 4 times a year. And it's nice.
Yes, and you're the director. And tell me about your role there and how long you've been in that position.
I just completed 2 years there. And so I facilitate anything and everything the board wants, whatever they dream up. So helping from putting the galleries together and signage to social media to membership to I'm a jack of all trades.
All right. So what drew you to the role at the Iowa Quilt Museum?
Well, I didn't go directly there. It's my introduction. I used to work here. Mm-hmm. And during COVID, things had slowed down. And so I applied for a job at Quilts of Valor, which the national headquarters is here in Winterset, Iowa. And so I managed their office. And that was kind of my introductory to the quilt world, as well as a little more insight to a nonprofit. And so when the Quilt Museum position opened up, I went over and talked to the current director and just talked about what was the job entail and would it be something that I can handle. And I think with my past experience at the Quilts of Valor and actually being connected to the community here kind of helped, kind of make it feel like it would be the next move, I guess, you know. So.
Yeah. What do you love most about working in a space that blends art, history, and storytelling?
I think that says it all right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be surrounded by works of art and to be exposed to new ideas. I'm always just amazed at what people create and come up with, just out of the box thinkers. And then at the same time, too, we had an exhibit that was indigo blue and white quilts from the early 19th century. So they were our oldest quilt in there was 1860. Our youngest was 1894. And to be able to look at that and see the artistry and just the hand quilting alone, besides the piecing of it all, but then the tie to, well, what is this quilt block and why is it named orange peel and what's the story behind that? And that ties back all the way to the American Revolutionary War. And you just go, wow, that's crazy. And so then you're learning a little bit about that as well. It's about why is that named after, what is it about that? And then you kind of find out more. And then it also gets you to think about the what women had to endure at that time, right? To create this beautiful work of art and how that was an anomaly. It was, was this to find the time to do it, and to do it with such care and such expertise it's just mind blowing.
And that it's been preserved now for that long,
right?
Is incredible.
So it was cherished, mm-hmm. right? And then the stories are all gone with them. You don't know who made them, and you don't know who, what it was for. Was it a wedding gift or was it? Just pure art, and you just kind of don't know that. So it's important to from this point on, whatever you inherit, that you have that story attached to it in some way.
Yeah, you're kind of touching on this, but quilts are more than just blankets, and that they are a significant art form. Can you go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, that's like a bad word in the quilting world to call a quilt a blanket. Mm-hmm. Like you have to really, things you learn on the job. But yeah, because these are true acts of love. First off, if somebody is to make you a quilt for a graduation gift or a wedding gift or a birthday, that they have really taken that time to think of you and what would you like, as in from the print of the fabric to the design of the piecing to quilting it, and adding little personal touches and it's this labor of love and it's just so much more than just a blanket. And then when you get something like I now have two quilts, one for my mother-in-law and one for my mom. The one from my mom, she can tell me, well, I sat right next to your grandma while she did each block. And so I go, okay, well, that was 1966 that and the fabric, okay, well, I can even date the fabric to that. And well, this looks like feed sack. So it was probably something that she had left over from the 30s. And to be able to make those connections to your own family history and your own stories is it's really sweet. There is, can I just mention too, there are two websites for people that, if they're hearing this and they're like, well, I have a quilt and that I was handed down, there are two websites. One's called the Quilt Index and the other's is Quilters Alliance. And you submit a photo of your quilt along with the story because
Oh, wow.
eventually someday you're going to be separated from your quilt.
Yeah.
So if you're separated from your quilt and then I get it, I can take that quilt and go, well, I wonder if it's on there. And I can look it up, especially if I know the quilt pattern. I can look it up by pattern and go, oh my gosh, there's my quilt. And then I can, that who made it, what year, why for, is all connected, stays with the quilt.
Oh, that's cool.
It is
I
so
had no
cool.
idea.
I know.
How neat.
Things we learn.
So what makes the Iowa Quilt Museum unique compared to other museums?
I think because it is always changing and it is always something new. So we went from that right before that traditional quilting came with the blue and white. We had four ladies that made quilts out of very tiny pieces, explosion of color, just exciting, lots of movement, very vibrant. And when they said, okay, we're going to go from this to two-tone quilts, I was like, oh, okay. And they undid those, we unboxed those quilts and got them all out. And I was like, oh, okay. Like you're just always surprised, right? I mean, you have in your head what you think a quilt is and you've seen quilts, but it just never disappoints when you go in there and you see what people have created out of fabric. It's just, and stitching. It's amazing. I find it, I marvel at it.
So what kind of exhibits or collections can the visitors expect to see now?
So right now we have the most we've ever had. We have 225 20 by 20 quilts from Cherrywood. Cherrywood is a fabric company. They dye fabrics and they put out what's called a jelly roll. This is the other thing I love about the quilting world is they have things called jelly roll and layered cake and charms. And this is all fabric terms. And I think it's so sweet. But they put out a jelly roll of fabric and there'll be colors in there. And you purchase that and they give you the option to make a quilt, challenge you to make a quilt. So they've done some with like orange and yellow and green fabric, and they say make a monarch butterfly quilt or make a reds and gray or pinks and grays and whites, and they're like make a Princess Diana quilt. And you submit those quilts and they jury them, and then they pick 200 to 250 of them, and then those quilts tour the country. So they reached out to us about 2 years ago and said, we have these quilts and we know these poppy quilts. We did a poppy quilt challenge and we know that Winterset is the national headquarters for Quilts of Valor. We think you should have these quilts alongside these quilts. I think it would be a really powerful exhibit. And we agreed. And so we worked it out. And so we have all 225, which is rare. They usually ship them out. Either, somebody might have 50 of them or 90, but that to have all 225 is not usual. So we have all of those. Plus we had room for 6 Quilts of Valor quilts to hang alongside them. And then we got quilts from Sacramento, a guild out there. Well, they're not a guild. It was a group of ladies that decided they wanted to make something to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our country. So they decided that they were going to make, this will be nothing to us because we don't quilt, but the Baltimore album, which is like an outlet. So they took blocks, and each block represents a state. So they put them in order of when they joined the union. So it starts with Delaware, and then it ends with Hawaii and Alaska at the end. And so there's a strip, and there's 5 blocks on each strip, and each one represents a state. And then they're just beautiful. And whoever pieced it, in the quilting, they wrote their name in the quilting or the initials. So that's a little personal touch in there. So those are on the walls that divide our gift shop and our gallery. So, and we only have those until June 1st, and then they move on to it. They got to go somewhere else. So that's what we have right now. And after that, we'll have the 10-year anniversary. So those, the Cherrywood quilts and the Quilts of Valor quilts are there through July 7th. And then we'll have our 10-year anniversary exhibit, which we're really excited about that one. We have reached out to previous artists and exhibitors that have had their quilts in our gallery and asked them if they would be willing to submit a quilt for this exhibit. And Marianne Fawns and Randall Parkin have been working to curate that and reach out to all of them. And I think all of them have said yes. So it's going to be another large one for us, which will be 35. It won't be 241 like we have right now, but it'll be 35 quilts. But there are big name quilters in the art quilting world, from Kay Fassett to Victoria Finley Wolf, Ricky Timms. I think we have a Tula Pink. These are all artists, from New York to, just Missouri. We have some people from California and Washington. We even have the lady that provided the antique quilts, Julie Silber. She'll be providing an antique quilt as well. So it's going to be this really eclectic exhibit that hasn't been done before, where, well, at least in our museum, but it's, where it's got modern to antique quilts in it all together, just to kind of commemorate who we've had in the last 10 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the quilts often tell stories. Can you share an example of a quilt or an exhibit that has really stood out to you personally?
Oh, we just had an exhibit from Manhattan Quilters Guild that was in there. Manhattan Quilters Guild started in 1980, and they do a quilt challenge among themselves. And it's always about a 40 by 40 quilt. And they will, what are we going to, they'll have a theme. So we had their exhibit back when Megan Barrett was there, our first director, and it was 40 by 40 at 40. So when the guild celebrated 40 years together, they did 40 by 40 quilts and just kind of commemorated that. So they did one just recently. It was called Rebound, Renew, Reimagine. And we had that here. And it was kind of how they reemerged from COVID and being in quarantine. I think about us being in quarantine here in, small town Winterset, Iowa. And, we're not surrounded by a lot of people. And to be in quarantine in New York City, I think that had to be quite a weird experience, right? You're using, whether you interact with them or not, you're surrounded by them. So they just wanted something about, like, how have you handled it? How have you come out of it? And so there were some in there that was like, oh, I just took my work and I reimagined it. Or, some were really personal. And I think there was one in there that she was telling a story about how she was in quarantine and her husband of 47 years passed away. And she was not from this country originally. And she had got this group of people around her, got her a good community of friends. And this tragic thing happens, and she's in isolation, and she's having to deal with it, and how hard that was. And so in her quilt, she had a little doll that was cocooned, and it was called Release Me. And it was just so moving. And you just think, it's a quilt. But it's so much more. And that one really stands out.
Yeah. What surprises people most when they visit the museum?
I think just expanding their definition of a quilt, and just seeing it in a new light, that they're like what people come up with, like I said, we get this, we have the traditional quilt in our head, which is beautiful. And when we have modern and art quilts, we have people that come in and go, well, I like these, but I'm a traditional quilter, but to look at that and to find inspiration from it, or to just to kind of broaden your definition of what a quilt is, and to see it as a true art form.
Oh, yes.
That it is. Even the quilts you're getting from your grandma, that's an art form that she's doing. And so That's what I love about it, and I think that people are surprised that they weren't expecting to see something.
Yeah, very cool. You have the airing of the Quilts event coming up. Can you tell us about that and what people can expect?
Yeah. So Megan Barrett was our first director, and she, as a fundraiser, decided that we needed to have an airing of the quilts. And so we decorated the town in quilts, hung them from the porticos of the courthouse and at the bridges. And I think they sold tickets in the churches to go into the churches, and it was just an annual fundraiser. Um, and so quilters from all over would come and see these quilts decorated in the town. And then Carissa Heckathorn, who was our second director, she took that and she expanded it to a 4-day event. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have a quilt retreat. And then we also host classes and lectures. Um, and then we'd have evening activities like a trivia night and gallery walk and that kind of stuff. So this year we've expanded another day. So, because we like a challenge, when we just hope to keep it growing.
Mhm.
So on Tuesday, June 2nd, we're doing a bus tour from here to the International Quilt Museum. We are really nicely located for quilters who like to take road trips because we are sandwiched between Lincoln, Nebraska, which has the International Quilt Museum, which gets a lot of people.
Okay.
Then there's us. And then just south of us in Missouri is Missouri Star, which is a big publication, quilting publication. And then the woman has bought storefronts and has created a museum and shops, and it's a
Mm.
shop, it's a quilter's mecca. And then just south of that in Paducah, Kentucky is the National Quilt Museum. So we're just kind of sandwiched in all of that. So even working here, I knew that we'd have tourists come in and they'd say, well, I'm on a road trip from Lincoln to
Yeah.
here, and they're continuing on. And so um
So what other events?
So, right. So, so we're doing a tour from here to Lincoln and we're taking, we'd like to take about 50 people, and they give you behind the scene tour where they have the space to save and preserve. So they
Okay.
have historic antique quilts that they keep in the back. So we'll be doing a behind the scenes tour where we get to see those. And then we'll do a docent tour with the current exhibits that they have. And then we'll have lunch and hit some shops. So that kind of kicks off our week. And then we'll have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in of classes. Our retreat is full, but we have classes and lectures. So I'd really try to sell those as two different events, because when quilters buy a spot to be in the retreat, they want to quilt on their projects. They don't really want to leave to go
Mhm.
attend a class or a lecture. They spent the money to be there and be amongst their friends. So I'm trying to market that as two different things. Come for one or come for the other, because we'll have all day classes or lectures that you can attend. And so whatever is in our gallery at that time in our exhibit, we try to incorporate in our festival. So since we have the Quilts of Valor in there, Tony Jacobson, who has Peaceworks Quilt Shop, he has very involved in Quilts of Valor and has written multiple quilt patterns for them, and he is in their book. That they just revised that Quilts of Valor quilters will purchase. And so if you were to, it's called 21 Star Salute. He's going to teach that class. And if you purchase that class, you also get the book with the class. So then that gives you all the other patterns that are in
Mhm.
that book as well. And Cherrywood, who is the fabric dyeing company that has the poppy quilts, they're coming to do a lecture and a pop-up shop. Well, Tony will have their fabric at his shop in Peaceworks. So we always try to incorporate what's there into our festival. And then on Saturday is airing of the quilts. And again, we decorate the whole town. Last year we had 11. I try to give big bang for your bucks because we don't charge a whole lot. It's just $25. And we had 11 indoor exhibits that got you into, including the Iowa Quilt Museum that day. And so I think this year we'll pass that up. And I get a little kickback because I get the quilters, well, I can't hit them all.
Mhm. Mm.
But I don't want you to not have enough to go to either.
Right.
But what is great is the town that participates in it. So Madison County Winery, they do their own and they have a quilt display out there. And same with the Coverbridge Winery. And last year, the cidery was part of it, and they had a quilt display out there. And the churches are, have displays. The historical complex will host a display. Judge Lewis House. During those 3 days, we've had a scavenger hunt inside the shops. So you go into a shop and they have a quilt in there that you have to find, and take a photograph of it. But we're really trying to incorporate the whole town into it and kind of
Mhm.
make it a benefit for everybody that we have all these visitors.
Yeah. So if someone's looking for more information or wants to participate in one piece of your event or the whole event, where would they find more information?
Our website's iowaquiltmuseum.org. So just go there, and across the menu, there'll be events, and you'll see a menu will drop, and 2026 Iowa Quilt Festival. And all of that will be there, from airing of the quilts to classes, the bus tour, the retreat, and even volunteer opportunities. We're always looking for help, especially on that Saturday, to hang quilts and maybe sit with an exhibit. We do an because we have two of the cover bridges, and then we also do Monumental Park, and we put the Quilts of Valor quilts out there every
Mhm.
year. So we need people to kind of sit with them and just make sure that they don't get damaged, or or anybody walk off with them,
Mhm.
And so we're always looking for volunteers on that day, and the other thing, and the evening activities. So we do trivia night at the Drift. At the movie theater this year, they're going to play two movies on Quilts of Valor that Iowa Public Television did. So and it has Fons and Porter in it, because Fons and Porter were involved in that. And Fons and Porter, obviously started here and was big. And so they're going to play those two movies. And then we also have Tony at Peaceworks does a lecture out at Coverbridge Winery on Friday night. But I'm trying to incorporate new quilters. So
Mhm.
this year we're offering a kids class through the 4-H in
Oh,
town,
cool.
and that class is already full. But so that's one. So trying to incorporate younger generation to get them involved, and then also non-quilters. I am not a quilter yet, but are doing two barn quilting classes. Which, if you don't know, you paint a barn block on a piece of wood and you hang it on your house, and so we have a class on Wednesday and then a class on Friday night. So especially if you can't get in the lecture, then you can always, because it's pretty popular and sells out, and then you can always attend the barn quilting class and make something to take home.
Sounds like a busy week for you.
It's a little bit busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but you asked where to find the information. And so our website, iowaquiltmuseum.org. And then also, we're on Facebook and Instagram, and we're also and that would have information about the Quilt Festival, but we're also on YouTube and occasionally on TikTok. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very nice. So, how does the Quilt Museum contribute to the tourism in Madison County?
What's been nice is here with Teddy in tourism, she's she's gotten two buses that come each year that are all quilters,
Mm.
and they make a stop here at the museum. But yeah, when they're coming, they might see the signs on the interstate that say the Iowa Quilt Museum. So they're coming in, and they are not only visiting our museum, but then they're wanting to know where John Wayne is, which is just around the corner, or where can I get a good place to eat, or what other shops are on the square, or even off the square, or, so they come, and then they want to know more, and they want to know about the courthouse, and is it open? And so it brings people in, and then while they're here, they want to know more. They might go
Mhm.
see a bridge. They might are going to need gas. They're going to want to wash their car after seeing a bridge. They're
Yep.
going to want to, that was a long drive, and now I'm hungry, or I need some coffee, or, and
Yep.
so they're here, and then they enjoy their time here as well, which is nice.
Yeah. What kind of visitors do you see coming through your doors?
Um, Well, just yesterday, I had a gal that just wanted to, she was working on getting all 50 states, and she's up from Michigan, and she was like, well, she'd been through Iowa, but had never stopped. And she saw that we had bridges, and then she saw that there was a quilt museum, and she's like, I'm there. So she came, and she was here yesterday morning, and she did our museum, and then I knew she was going to go out and do that. So there was somebody that was very just like, I want to see this town. And then we had visitors from just in Council Bluffs that just appreciated quilting, and they came. So it's It's a plethora. I mean, we do obviously get a lot of quilters, but then we just get people that just really appreciate the art of quilting as well,
Mm-hmm.
or just want to know more about our town too.
Yeah. So, why is it important for a small community like ours to have spaces dedicated to art and culture?
Oh, because it brings in people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it
Mm-hmm.
brings in so much color and it brings in so much life and it brings in such more ideas, right? I think about Brooke
Mm-hmm.
B. Shannon's, and she's got her jewelry, and we have our quilting, and we have Tony who has the quilt shop. Um, and then there's also, I don't know what they're called, Mandy's shop, but then,
Mm-hmm.
and she does classes and she does art classes. And it just, to have an experience to come down and maybe look at some art and then also get something to eat or maybe purchase something, it just adds life to a town. And I think that's important.
Yeah. So you've mentioned how the community can get involved and support you through ways of volunteering and encouraging people to visit and all of that. But if someone has never visited before, what would you say to encourage them to come in through your doors?
It won't disappoint. You'll be surprised. You will just be surprised because, again, I think that you have an expectation of what you're going to go in and see, especially by the title Iowa Quilt Museum. You're thinking Iowa quilters and their old quilts, and it's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but you'll just be surprised, and that's a pleasant surprise.
Hmm.
I'm always disappointed when the quilter will come in and the spouse won't, and I'm like, come in,
Come
come
in,
see
yeah.
something new. I will say too, because I said something about Iowa and Iowa quilters, and they're older. We do have a really special quilt right now that we don't save and preserve. We don't have the space, but there are a handful that have come across our paths that we just couldn't let go. So we do have them in archival boxes, and we try to rotate them out. We have a bed in the mezzanine,
Hmm.
and so what's on there right now, I got a call from a lady in Rolfe, Iowa, which is in Pocahontas County. They were remodeling or doing something to the old American Legion building. And in there was a quilt that was made in 1967 to commemorate and honor the World War I veterans in Pocahontas County. So the quilt is all hand quilted and hand embroidered. There are 140 names, 5 names and a
Wow.
star.
Hmm.
There's blue stars, and there's 5 names in all the stars. And then in the center are 8 Gold Star veterans. It's just so, so sweet. And what they had done was she had gifted it, and they had framed it and with tacks. And so on the binding around the quilt is red binding, and you can see where it's faded, and there's a circle where the tack was, and then the little dot, like,
Hmm.
so all around. So it kind of adds a whole other little kind of art element to it in itself. But that's something that is old, and that is something from Iowa and an Iowa quilter that you would expect to see in there. So sometimes we have something like that in there, but yeah, you'll just be surprised about what's in there.
Hmm.
So
I would agree to that. I'm
yeah.
always surprised when the
Yeah.
new exhibits come out. I'm like,
Yeah.
it just baffles me, some of the art that
Yeah.
they're doing.
I love people's brains. I love
Hmm.
how creative they can be and how they will think outside of the box. I mean, here we have these, a simple challenge like, oh, make me a poppy quilt. And the variety of ideas that
Hmm.
have come back, a lot of veteran themed ones, really personable with photographs or even love letters written on the quilts, um, to, something more traditional, to something maybe folk art, a lot of painting. And then there's like an octopus garden, and you're like, oh, okay. It's like out of the blue, it's just something completely different. And you're like, I would not have thought of that. And it's just so fun and so surprising. And I just love that about going in there and
Hmm.
working in there.
Which that's what you get when you bring art into a
Right?
community.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here
Thank
and for
you.
sharing what you're doing at the Iowa Quilt Museum. Be sure to like, subscribe, and check out the Iowa Quilt Museum to learn more. Thank you for listening to Bridging the Gap, the Madison County Chamber of Commerce podcast, where Madison County's stories and businesses connect. We hope today's conversation gave you a deeper look at the people and passion behind our local community. To learn more about today's guest, Visit their website, and for more Chamber events, membership, or resources, visit www.madisoncounty.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, and join us next time as we continue bridging the gap across Madison County.